nerds, what's up? Today I'm going to be doing my September wrap-up, which will include my Contemporary-a-thon wrap-up. Let's get right on into this. I did read 7 and DNF'd 1 book. Starting off with the Contemporary-a-thon, even though it was at the end of the month, I want to get there because I had 7 books on my TBR, and I read 2, finished 1 that's not in this pile, and DNF'd 1. So let's go through these real quick. Firstly, the DNF of the month was Tell Me How You Really Feel by Aminah Rae Safi. I didn't DNF this because I really hated the book or anything. I only got 14 pages in. I can't really make any sort of anything about this book. I have no reason to DNF it except that a character is reminding me of somebody that I can't be thinking about right now, and I couldn't do it. So this was unfortunately the Sassy Book Club for September. Our live show is tonight, the night that I'm filming, which is October 4th. So it did already pass. As of right now, it's like up in the air because we both actually didn't read this book, but changes are a-coming to the Sassy Book Club, so I don't know if we're gonna do the live show and like announce things. Anyway, I didn't read this. I did, however, read The Bride Test by Helen Huang. I was nervous going into this because I did not really like the kiss quotient. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. There was a lot of things that I did not like about that book. So I was nervous going into it. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't like the secret that was being kept in this book by one of our main characters. However, overall, I really loved this story. I loved the characters. I loved their romance. I loved a lot about this book. I didn't like the secret, so I couldn't give it a full 5. And then I read The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. Full 5 out of 5 stars. This book was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I suppose I should tell you what these books are about. This is a teenage romance, high school romance between 2 ladies, and it's like about their senior year being in college, and I think it's Hate to Love. This book is about a girl who gets but who gets asked to come to America from Vietnam by the mother of her son, who she wants the girl to marry. So it's kind of an arranged thing. They get like 1 month or something to live together, and the mom kind of forces them to live together. And then if it doesn't work out, she'll go home, and if it does work out, they'll get married. That's the premise of it. Like I said, there's a secret being kept that I don't want to spoil. It's good though. I did enjoy. And then this one is about a girl whose sister was raped and murdered in the past, and she doesn't handle that well. It's kind of about like violence, and also about how like the system doesn't listen to, doesn't give justice to women who are raped and murdered. And then it's also a romance. This book is kind of hard to describe without giving anything away. It's really good. Highly recommend. Multiple points of view as well, and really good. Okay, that was the books that I read during the Contemporary-a-thon. I'll transition with the one that I actually did finish that week, even though it wasn't for Contemporary-a-thon. But before I do that, I want to do my stats real quick. So this month I read 7 books and DNF'd 1. I did have 7 books on my Contemporary TBR, and I had 10 books on my TBR. I read 5 of those 10 books and 2 of the 7 on my Contemporary-a-thon TBR. I read 1 physical book, 5 audiobooks, and 1 ebook. So here we are again. I'm very busy, but I do a lot of commuting. That's where I'm getting a lot of my reading done right now. I read 2 contemporaries, 2 fantasies, 1 sci-fi, 1 historical fiction, and 1 paranormal. And then I read 3 young adults, 1 new adult, and 3 adults. I gave 1 DNF, 5 4 stars, and 2 5 stars. So I had a great reading month as far as what I enjoyed. I enjoyed basically everything that I read. And in total, I read 3,274 pages. So I'm doing very well as far as my page count goes. I'm just giving myself too much on my plate to attempt to do what the TBR is asking for. I think I'm definitely going too far on that, but that's okay. It's not a big deal that I didn't finish everything on my TBR. It kind of gives me some leeway on like, what do I feel like reading? So that's okay. The wrap up's gonna be weird as far as ratings go. I usually go from like least liked to most liked, but I'm not going to do that this month just because we already started with Contemporary-a-thon and then we can move on. The next book that I want to talk about is the book that I finished during Contemporary-a-thon, which was Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. Gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It's a reread for me. It's the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series. I'm reading this for the TOG read-along. Me and Brittni are hosting. We're reading one book of these a month and live showing about it. Empire of Storms will be on October 29th, which is a Tuesday at 5 p.m. PST. So if you want to read that with us, then that would be awesome. Absolutely loved it. I can't really talk about it. It's a 4th book in a series, but it's about Celaena Sardothien and her assassinee-ness. I also read Scarlet this month, which is the sequel to Cinder, which is a sci-fi. These books are all fairy tale retellings. So the first one is a retelling of Cinderella. This is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. Again, sci-fi. It takes place like far in the future. There's now like a subspecies of human that grew up on Lunar that have powers, and there's humans still on Earth, and there's wars going on and stuff like that. I thought this was good. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely am enjoying this series. This was not my favorite one between Cinder and Scarlet. I will tell you that. But it wasn't, I feel like a lot of people don't like Scarlet from what I've heard, and I didn't find that to be true. The next book that I read was The Priory of the Orange Tree. I Hate You All. You did this to me. I put a poll on Twitter and you guys voted for this even though I asked you not to. But I made it happen, guys. I asked you not to mostly because it's just really long and I already had a lot of books on my TBR, but you guys just went with it because you guys are all obsessed with this book, so I'm glad I read it. It was very good. I listened to this one on audiobook. The audiobook was phenomenal, although I will say I'm like still confused about everyone's names because they're hard to pronounce and I have no idea how to spell them, and I think that I would be a little bit less confused about the characters and which one's which had I read it physically. I think it would have taken me less time to figure those things out, but I really liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. This book is an epic adult fantasy, high fantasy novel about warring sections of this fantastical world. We have the people in the east and the people in the west, and I honestly couldn't tell you which one's which, but one of them likes dragons that are water dragons and one of them hates all dragons, and so they do not trust this one, and they both don't like the fiery dragons that haven't been around for a really long time since the last war. And then there are the people in the south who understand how the fire dragons have been kept away for this long, and they just like want to hold the peace for as long as possible and protect the whole world. That's about all I got. I couldn't tell you anybody's names. There's also a female-female romance. It was great. Also read The Divine Secrets of the YaYa Sisterhood. This is a reread for me. I used to love this book in high school. It was still really great. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. This is a book that takes place in the 90s, but then also goes back in time to the 60s-ish, 40s maybe. Anyway, it's about a woman who just got her big break and is now a screenwriter for a play that's going on to somewhere fancy and getting a TV deal and stuff like that. And she did an interview with some fancy newspaper and talked about her mother and how her mother was kind of abusive when she was growing up, and now her mother isn't speaking to her because how dare she do that. So then throughout the book she's like looking at all of this past stuff from her mom's best friends who send her all of these old letters and photos and stuff, and we're going back in time to when the mom and her friends were growing up to having their babies and like having these kids, and you kind of learn about things that went on and about how possibly mental health was involved because that's a thing that went undiagnosed a lot in the 40s and 50s. I really like it. This also has a movie adaptation that is amazing. What's-her-face, Sandra Bullock, plays the main character, Siddalee Walker. It takes place in Louisiana, so that was giving me some feels because I went to New Orleans at the beginning of the year and I miss it. And yeah, loved it. And then lastly, I read The Mediator, the first book in the Mediator series by Meg Cabot. This is a young adult novel about a girl who can see ghosts and talk to ghosts, and then she moves cities and moves from New York to California, and there's a ghost who lives in her room. It's like one of those episodic style series where like you have this overarching arc of the main character and the ghost that lives in her room, and then you also have, each book has like a ghost that needs to be taken care of. So in this novel, it was about a girl who died, who committed suicide at this, who went to the new school that she's at, and she committed suicide because the boyfriend broke up with her. And then now she's trying to get revenge on the boyfriend for doing it to her. It was good. It was definitely like nostalgic, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's not perfect, but I didn't expect it to be because it's just like, it's basically like a chick flick novel. Whatever. But I really enjoyed. So that is everything that I read this month. I did have a really good reading month as far as the books. Like, I really enjoyed every single thing that I read, and I'm just hoping that I keep that going all the rest of this year. What was your favorite book that you read this month? I think if I had to pick one, I would probably pick The Female of the Species. That one was phenomenal. Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to hit this like button if you enjoyed this video. I hope you did. And make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already. I make videos every Thursday and Saturday, but you can also always hit that little notification bell if you want to be notified every time I post a video. And I will see you guys very soon with a new one. Bye!